Have you wondered if Gemini 3.5 can actually help you build real hardware, or if the AI hype is completely overblown? I tested it on a streaming camera for remote collaboration. Here's the unfiltered truth on how useful it really is from a 15-year hardware engineer. At the beginning of part selection, it is lightning fast. It's faster than everything else I've used. Now, we're not on complex thinking or pro. We're just using standard Gemini 3.5. And the problems that we had with Claude last week of trying to finagle because it was taking so long, that did not exist anywhere here. Super, super fast. By the way, we've given the same prompt to every single one of these models that we've tested so far. Now, we've done those at different times of the day, and we know there's some usage issues and some capacity problems with specific models at certain times. We didn't get any of that. Gemini is just faster than everybody else, which kind of makes sense. Google does a good job at building products, and so it's expected. The same way that you would expect a fast search, you get that here with Gemini 3.5. The parts that it suggested fall in line with most of the other models as well. As we said, this is a pretty simple project. It also gave good extra info. As an example, glare control. So as I'm asking Gemini 3.5 to put these parts together, it fundamentally understands that when it comes to object detection, glare is a really big issue. If you've ever precision landed a drone on any type of shiny surface, you know exactly what we're talking about. When the sun's high and it's really light outside, or you have direct light, you get this glare that happens that makes it difficult for object detection models to run and detect things that are shiny. So things like screws, things like standoffs, anything that's shiny has a bad reflection, and it fundamentally understands this throughout. There are a couple of other examples, but you can tell that it kind of understands what we're talking about when we talk about object detection. The problem, though, specifically with part selection, is that all of that extra info really didn't seem to affect the part choices. It only asked me 2 questions. I thought Claude was light in the question department by only asking 4. No, sir. We found a new low. It's Gemini 3.5. 2 questions. What do you want to detect, and how do you want it to stream to your friend? That's really interesting. If you know glare's a problem, you ask nothing about the environment, you recommend a diffuse LED, but if we're outside, how does that make sense? If we're inside, okay, fair enough. If we're in low light conditions, you know nothing about that. You know nothing about my budget. Maybe we could have spent 4 times the amount, but you didn't ask, and so you didn't know how to counter the initial part selection. Before you asked the question, it just spat out a bunch of options, and that's what we got. From either the question side or this nuance that it picked up from originally didn't really seem to affect the parts and how we built, with the exception of the diffuse light. I'll say that's the bad part about part selection with Gemini 3.5. I should warn you, these next 2 sections aren't going to be pretty. They're not. I should caveat all this by saying I want Gemini to do well to build hardware, but this ain't going to be pretty. In almost the exact reverse, when we talked about Claude and the building instructions, and if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. Here, we have the complete opposite problem. Completely opposite. The only good thing that I can say, the only good thing, and trust me, I have scoured the entire output to find something good to say. The only good thing that I can say is that apparently Amazon hates them as much as everybody else because their links don't work either. They don't work with anybody. They don't work with Grok. They don't work with ChatGPT. They don't work with Claude, and they certainly don't work with Gemini. But that's not really a good thing, is it? That you're just no worse than everybody else? The bad parts, and there's a lot of them, when it comes to where to buy, give me a place I can buy these parts that you've suggested. Only 30% of the links actually truly worked. There were some weird issues, too. Some parts were described as add-ons, which they can be, but also you can buy them individually. There were 3 links to the same exact product, and we're talking Raspberry Pi. I've got 3 links to one of these, but I don't have a link to some things, and it links back to the same thing, even though it shouldn't. But here's my fundamental problem. Gemini 3.5 suggested to me that I should go search Amazon for a product. That's rather odd. Is this not the same company that built its reputation off of search? Am I crazy? Is this not the same company that has almost unfettered access to the entire internet? Just to compare, it recommended I search Amazon for a mini USB desktop microphone. Now, mind you, we didn't get the link to one, but when I go to Google and I type in mini USB desktop microphone, how many results would you think that I get? 10? 15? That would be great. That'd be a great option. Put all 10 of them in here. No. When I go to your own platform, type in the exact same thing that you recommended, and I get 31 million results in 0.27 seconds. In less than a third of a second, I get 31 million results. Could you not pick one of them and stick it in here? Does this one not talk to that one? You literally have a shopping tab. Maybe part of my problem with Gemini 3.5 is that I expected it to shine here. I expected that when it came to links better than anybody else, that it would do a great job. Why would I not expect that? Google has spent 20 years telling me to expect it to do search really, really well. And when we get to this AI model, Gemini 3.5, it says, hey, you know, all of that 20 years worth of history that we've done search really well, why don't you do it? Why don't you search it instead? Because we don't want to. It feels like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. How is this the same company? How? Like, how is this AI model the same company as Google? I don't get it. I don't understand how in the world it could be this bad. I just don't. And so with that, we're going to hit a little reset here. Let's move on to build instructions. The good parts about build instructions. It does a pretty good job of pulling information directly from product documentation. Some of the others don't. They don't care. They just give you the thing that you asked for, good or bad, indifferent, doesn't matter where it came from. Here it is, take it or leave it. Google at least links out to these other places. So now as a reasonable human, I can at least find the place where things like Raspberry Pi store all of their product documentation and how they talk through building it. It's right there. It's easy to get to. It also hits most of the high points. So when it comes to the rig that it built, it chose a Raspberry Pi. It knows that you need to put the cooler on, and then you need to put the AI hat on, and that you need to mount the camera. But here's where it falls apart. Completely fails in the details. So we talked about this with Grok a little bit, failing in the nuances. If you haven't seen it, go watch the video. It's the first video we posted, actually. Gemini 3.5 takes that to brand new levels never seen before. At least I've never seen it before. So as an example, because I don't just want to give blanket statements without explicit examples, that seems kind of not fair. I don't know if you've ever seen a camera module 3. There's 4 mounting holes right there. It's suggested, like this right here, I'm going to show you all sides of this so you can't say I'm lying, that I mount this to this. This is a standard camera tripod. It's got a 1/4-20 thread. This is pretty normal. Every webcam mounts directly to this. Screws in, no problems. It suggested I attach this to this. And so I'm not sure in what world you need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that that ain't going to work. Ain't going to work. Won't happen. To be fair, I could probably hot glue it to this. Maybe that's what it's suggesting. It just says mount it. But I've got no bracket. I've got no other instructions, just to tape that sucker up and let's roll. And so problems like that really filter through every single part of this model. Somehow it understands that glare is a problem with object detection, but it can't seem to think of how I should possibly attach a camera module 3 to a standard camera mount. That's the problem. And not for nothing, as much as I ragged on ChatGPT 5.5 for the UI, this is just bad. The brevity with which it gives the instruction, and we talked about brevity being really important in a parts list for build instruction. You need more information. This whole thing was super condensed. It was very short. This was half of the length of some of the other models that we've tested. There's just not much here. It doesn't give you all of this information, and even when it does, it doesn't really know what to do with it. That's my review of Gemini 3.5. I told you, I warned you from the beginning. You get the unfiltered truth. You can tell me whether I don't. I feel like I do a pretty good job of representing both sides well and trying to find good things and trying to find bad things. With Gemini 3.5, there's just not a whole lot of good things when it comes to building hardware. They're just not. My firm recommendation is that you don't. Don't do it. Watch this video. Save yourself however many hours you were going to spend trying to build hardware with Gemini 3.5, just don't do it. And, when they release a new model, we'll bring it back up and we'll review it again. And I hope they've made improvements. I want them to succeed. I want this to be available for my kids who like to build things. I want them to be able to produce a model that is good for building hardware. But this ain't it. You should just go somewhere else. That's kind of a downer too, right? But that's the way hardware goes. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. That's all for this episode of Smoke Test with Gemini 3.5. Hey, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. Like, subscribe, it'll help the channel out. My name is Brandon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.